Welcome to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
Welcome back to another edition of Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark and our special guest, Robert Palmer of RP Funding. We continue our last week's discussion about an program that's being offered to you through the offices of Gregory and Clark, absolutely free, a review of your current mortgage, a review of your insurance cost, everything that's going into escrow, including your taxes, and ways that you might be leaving money on the table where you could be saving money or shortening the term of your loan. Let's get back to our conversation.
All right, ready for a little foreclosure update, Newt? Let me tell you what's going on. Foreclosures are up. First-time filings, meaning the amount of houses in the four-county region that Orlando is in, up 38% from September to October, and I'm going to tell you why. As you know, we had the fast-track foreclosure process. That bill was passed and it went into effect July 1st of this year. Banks were like, oh, geez, we don't know what we're doing here. They had to figure it out. They figured it out, all right? They figured it out, and they can go a lot faster. And here's who it's really going to affect. The person who's just not really doing much about it. You think you can practice law yourself and send in the letter to the judge. Let me tell you, it's a rude awakening ahead because it's not 4-year foreclosures anymore unless you're fighting them, okay? You need to go out and get a law firm who knows what they're doing and knows how to fight these foreclosures because you have 20 days to respond to the foreclosure complaint. And if you just let it go, in the past we could file a motion, hey, judge, my client didn't know what was going on. It's different now. They're letting these foreclosures go much faster, and I really think that you need to get a lawyer sooner rather than later because we are moving quickly through this foreclosure
What is it,
process.
45 days now?
You can. If everything goes well for the bank, they could in theory get it done in 45 days. And people who are hurting and suffering are the people who aren't doing anything, who aren't being proactive and getting a lawyer to defend them in this process.
Justin, a lot of people go on to Google and they'll put in, how to fight the foreclosure and they'll get this form letter.
Oh, God.
And so what happens is we see this and the banks see it and the judges see it. You get the exact same letter from 50 people and just the name changes and it's got the same hardship. And so what they realize is this is not true. This is a form letter that someone downloaded off the internet and it's not the same thing as having an attorney on your side. And again, the judges, everyone's trying to get this problem solved. So if you are not sincere in your issue, if you're not willing to be honest and have correct paperwork filed, you are doing yourself a disservice and you have a better chance of your foreclosure being fast-tracked and getting finalized and being kicked out of your house. Where if you have an attorney on your side and you can go in with the true hardship, the true story, the true needs, you have a much better chance of getting an ultimate resolution to your problem and being able to keep your house, modify your house, and stay there for longer.
In October alone, in the counties of Orange, Seminole, Lake, and Osceola, there are 1,232 more houses in foreclosure than there were in September. That means that the banks have actually come to people's houses and said, here you go, you're now in foreclosure at 1,232 houses. I'm warning these people, the owners of these 1,232 houses, that everything that you've read in the past, saying a foreclosure, you can just sit around and wait for 4 years and they're not going to foreclose. Things are different now. Please don't read the articles from the past saying you can sit around for 4 years. Wait on the bank to come because it's different now. Please be proactive.
And these are mostly, Justin, these are defaults that had already happened. People had defaulted on their loan previously, but the bank had just not gotten around to filing the foreclosure. And so it's not that 1,200 new people went delinquent. These people were already in default for the most part. The banks are just finally getting caught up and getting the foreclosure process filed and started. And again, that kind of gumption from the bank and that kind of proactiveness from the bank that they're going to file that many that quickly means they are taking this new law seriously and they are going to try to start taking houses back much, much quicker.
And I guess the law says they've got to have all their ducks in a row before they start the process. But now, if they've got all their ducks in a row, you just lost a whole bunch of your delaying tactics. Let's go to Cynthia. She's calling all the way from South Carolina to our two panelists. Go ahead.
Hi.
How you doing,
Hello?
Cynthia? Are you really in South Carolina or are you from South Carolina?
I was driving through and I picked you up on the radio.
We get a lot of these drive-throughs. I appreciate it. I hope you drive safe, by the way. Where are you exactly right now?
I have no idea.
It's a drive-by caller. How about that?
Any idea? What do you see? What do you see a For the People sign?
I see US 192 Vine Street and Orange Boulevard.
You're in Kissimmee
right.
somewhere.
And where are your travels taking you? Are you down here visiting? You driving through? What's going on?
I visit relatives in Miami.
In Miami,
And
okay.
I'm
Because
headed
that
to
would make
Birmingham.
that makes sense why you'd be in Kissimmee right now. I don't understand. I mean, wouldn't you be on 95 or how are you getting to Miami?
95. Yeah, I'm going west because I want to go to Dothan. I have a relative in Dothan, so
Let me ask you a quick question, Cynthia. What is that big rest stop in South Carolina where you see signs for it? Like every 5 minutes, there's a sign like stop here, stop here. You know what I'm talking about?
Red Rock?
it's sort of like the Sea Rock City sign.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
South Carolina, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm originally from Birmingham, and I live in South Carolina.
Got it. All right. What's your question? Sorry about that.
Listen, thank you. I'm learning a lot from the discussion, and I thought I'd call in about my situation. I live in a townhouse, and my interest rate is 8.25. And a few years ago, I called a bank to get information on refinancing, and at the time, the balance on my mortgage is less than $40,000.
I'm going to cut you off right there, but you hang on the line because this is what I'm talking about. This is when people don't look every year at what they're paying on their mortgage, PITI, all four of them. This is what happens. You get stuck at 8% when everyone else, all your neighbors are at 3% or 4%. This is why once a year we have to look and see what we're paying for our mortgage. That's the free annual mortgage audit. And all you have to do, you don't have to do it yourself. You can call my law firm and we will do it for you. Back to you, Rob.
PITI. I pity those people for not looking,
Wow.
right?
This is why Rob gets the big bucks right here.
That's why they pay me
Unbelievable.
$3 to do this television show and radio show. Time for a break. But if you're having problems with your mortgage that could cost you your home, remember that the offices of Gregory and Clark are your one-stop shop for saving your home. Short sales, foreclosure, bankruptcy, refinance, it's all under one roof. Call right now, 321-282-1055. We'll be right back.
You're dealing with the same problem a lot of people do. You called your existing bank. All right, they don't really want to lower your rate because right now you're paying them 8%.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
We are back, and we're talking with Cynthia, who is calling because she's got herself a townhouse, and she's paying an exorbitant amount of interest on that thing. And we're back behind the law with Justin Clark and our very special guest, Robert Palmer of RP Funding. 855-297-9696 is the number to call in on the show. The office is 321-282-1055, and yours is 855-RP Funding, right?
That's it, 855-RP Funding, or locally 407-802-3344. So, Cynthia, we want to thank you so much for joining the show. And to answer your question, and I understand what you're going through, you have a low loan balance. And so a lot of banks will tell you, oh, Cynthia, we're not going to refinance, or we don't think it's worth it for you to refinance because you owe so little. So let me tell you, in some cases, this can be true, okay, because there are fixed costs in the refinance. The cost of an appraisal, the cost of the title searches, the cost of the closing fees. In Florida, we have all these state intangible taxes and high recording fees. South Carolina isn't nearly as bad. But again, when you look at all these costs, in some cases, it's not worth it to refinance because you have a low balance. I mean, think about this. If you have a $200,000 loan, the $300 appraisal is a very small percentage. If you have a $40,000 loan, now that $300 appraisal is a very big percentage and eats into your savings. However, you're at a high enough rate that it is worth it for you to do this. All right, so you're dealing with the same problem a lot of people do. You called your existing bank. All right, they don't really want to lower your rate because right now you're paying them 8%. And they want to keep making 8%, so they're not in a hurry to help you out. There are companies that will help you. All right. To answer your question, there is no real minimum of a loan. It's kind of a matter of finding a company who's willing to do a lower loan because, again, there's less interest to be made. There's less commission paid to the salespeople. You're probably going to have to call 5 to 10 companies to find someone who will work with you on a loan of that size. There is someone out there that will, trust me. And then the other solution, and I've recommended this to people before, if you were in Florida, we would just help you out. But since you're in South Carolina, if you have some equity in your townhome, you could do a cash out refinance. So what you want to do is say, okay, well, how much will you loan me? $60,000, $50,000, what's your minimum? Okay, great. Give me a loan for $60,000. So they're going going to pay off your existing mortgage of $44,000, and you're going to get $16,000 cash. The day after you close, mail them a check for that $16,000. That's going to pay your balance back down to $44,000, and you will have effectively lowered your interest rate and beaten the bank's minimum loan amount by doing the cash out refinance and then immediately sending them back the excess money to get the balance back down to where it's supposed to be.
But don't get excited when you get that check and then hold on to it and then take a European cruise up and down the Mediterranean. Because, when you do get the money in your pocket, it becomes it looks nice there. It looks nice there in your bank account. So obviously send it right back or save it for a rainy day or whatever. And also be very safe on your trip down to Miami. And like most people in Orlando, I have a similar story. I loved my time in Miami, in South Beach when I was 26 and single, just starting my law career. But I'm glad I don't live there anymore. Isn't that what everyone in Orlando says?
It'll sure take its toll on you.
Man.
Time for another short break. But before we go, are you struggling to make your mortgage payments? Refinancing your mortgage is an easy solution that could save your home. And Justin Clark has worked on thousands of such deals. Just give the offices of Gregory and Clark a call right now at 321-282-1055, and a free consultation with Justin will give you your options. We'll be right back.
Is your house underwater? If you owe more than your house is worth, Justin Clark may be able to get you an interest reduction through the HAMP and HARP programs. It's an easy way for you to keep your home or even just lower your monthly payments. Just give the offices of Gregory and Clark a call at 321-282-1055. There's never any charge for a consultation. So let Justin show you your options. We'll be right back.
We pay as much as 60% too much on our homeowners insurance yearly premium.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
If you've got a real estate call, you've got something to do with the law and real estate, or if it's mortgages today, we are blessed to have with us your friend in the mortgage business, Robert Palmer, right here from Orlando. Let's get that call. What's up, sir?
Hi. On a previous show a couple of months ago, I heard that there's possibility of reducing first mortgages on principal residences in bankruptcy.
Okay, Dave, thanks for your call. Laura, you can leave him on the line, too, because this is a little bit of a complex question. Okay, so filing bankruptcy is sometimes a way to fix your mortgage situation, so to speak. If your first mortgage is underwater and you have a second mortgage, even in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy now, we can strip away that second mortgage. You've always been able to do it in a 13, but only here in this area are we able to strip a second in a Chapter 7 to totally strip the mortgage away, okay? At Chapter 13, I think maybe more your question is, can I cram down, so to speak? You've seen some advertisements about cramming down first mortgages, and quite frankly, I've heard the rumors. I haven't seen it happen. I've never seen anyone really force a cram down on a mortgage. Now, what you can do in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you're entitled to do the mortgage mediation program. And the banks have a lot more incentive to work with you on a mediation, a modification in that mediation in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. This happens within a few months of filing, and sometimes they will give you a principal reduction. Typically, if it's Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, you're not going to get a principal reduction. But if it's another bank, oftentimes you can. So it's not really an automatic cram down. It's simply going through the modification process through the bankruptcy mediation program.
Now, Justin, can you include the balance of your mortgage? In, Chapter 13, you go on the payment plan, you're repaying the money. Does the mortgage get included in that normally, or is it left to the side? How does that normally work on a 13?
It's absolutely included in your payment that you make every month to the trustee. So if you do a 13, which is way more complicated than a 7, in a 13, you're really repaying all of this debt, not all of it, a percentage of it, over the course of 3 to 5 years or so to the trustee, and then the trustee in turn is going to pay all your bills for you. So as part of your trustee payment is your new mortgage payment.
All right, very good. If you have a question for any of our panel, 855-297-9696, 855-297-9696. Also, we do have attorneys standing by at the office at 321-282-1055. That's 321-282-1055.
Get back to this homeowners insurance part of things, because this is, again, it's so surprising to me that you hear people yelling about health insurance all the time, that you don't hear as much screaming about the homeowners insurance. And I still think it's because it's hidden oftentimes within that mortgage payment. Now, Florida has some of the highest homeowners insurance premiums in the nation, if not the highest. I mean, aka hurricanes, okay? Because of all the hurricanes, the insurance companies, they want to run from here. Absolutely get out of the state oftentimes. That's why we have this Citizens Insurance, and we have some of the highest premiums in the nation. However, there are many consumer advocate groups out there saying that we pay as much as 60% too much on our homeowners insurance yearly premiums because we're not shopping them around. We're not going around and saying, just because I have my car with this insurance company, I want to keep my homeowner's insurance with this company. We need to make sure that yearly, at least, we shop these premiums around because there are ways to save money on your homeowner's insurance. You see this all the time doing mortgages as well. I mean, what do you tell your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the things you've got to make sure you're getting a reputable policy in the beginning. A lot of people will buy these super stripped down policies to get started to try to get the cheapest amount possible. And these companies are notorious for then raising them considerably year after year. And this creates a double whammy because now you have an escrow shortage. So when the mortgage company has to pay your insurance out of your escrows and there's not enough money because the premium's gone up, you now get hit with an escrow shortage. So now it doubles the pain. So what they figured out is they know if they move it just a little bit a year that you're not going to notice. If things go up too dramatically, a lot of times people get hit with these escrow shortages. But even then, we see consumers who will just struggle to put the extra money in and not go and look for a better policy because they assume that if the one insurance company raised rates, that all insurance companies must have raised rates. And that's just not the case. I mean, every year insurance companies, some are getting more expensive, some are getting less expensive. It's about supply and demand. It's about capacity. And this is one of those things you've got to look at regularly. I mean, again, Justin, this is brilliant. You know, looking at the mortgage payment, the interest, the principal, and then also the bigger ones are probably the taxes and insurance, but there's ways to save money. And if you can knock down each one of those 4 items just a little bit, now you've got some real savings on your mortgage payment.
And let's talk even though about the mortgage rate, for instance. Okay, so I'm at a 4.5 or a 5%. I have 28 years left on my mortgage. I mean, there has to be some sort of math that you can do to say, all right, well, if the rate's now 4.1%, it's worth doing this. Or another thing that I find even more important is, let's say you have 23 years left on your mortgage payment, and I'm able to lower your rate a little bit. Payment stays the same, but I can take you down to 15 years. How do we do this math? How do we really get down and write this stuff down and figure out what's best for us? And that's the whole point of this program is to once a year, let's do this. Let's see if we can find you a better rate. Even if your payment stays the same, I'm going to take you from 22 years to only owing 15 years, and you're going to own your house free and clear.
Yeah, and again, let's talk again. Things change yearly. Things change yearly in as far as interest rates and mortgage programs, but more importantly, things change yearly in your life. So you may have a situation where you come in for one of your annual mortgage checkups with Justin, and you tell him, we don't think we're going to be in this house much longer. We're going to be here for a couple years, and he may say, okay, well in that case, let's not look at the interest rate. Let's focus on the taxes and insurance. And then you come in a year later and you say, you know what? My wife's pregnant. We want to be in this school district. We're going to stay in this house for the next 20 years. Well, now the math completely changes, okay? Because the biggest unknown factor and the biggest determining factor in when it's right to refinance and lower your rate is how many years are you going to be in the house? If you're going to be in the house for a year or two, then even if rates are 4 or 5% less, it may not make sense because you're not going to be there long enough to save the money. Where if you're going to be in that home for 10, 15, 20 more years, if you're going to pay that home off, then even saving 0.5% on your interest rate can be worth it. Because again, it all depends on your situation, how long you want to be in the house, how much money you have. You may sit down with Justin and realize, hey, I've gotten a couple raises, I'm making more money now. Let's look at a 15-year payment. Let's look at taking this loan that I have 27 years left on, and I can throw an extra couple $100 a month at it. Let's go to a 15-year. Again, these types of things change yearly, and to be able to sit down with an attorney once a year and have these types of conversations and have him look at your situation and determine what the right moves are on the single largest payment in your financial situation is huge.
We're going to take another break, but you can get legal advice right now by calling Justin's office at 321-282-1055. Associates are standing by. We'll be right back.
If you're having any legal problems that could cost you your home, remember that the offices of Gregory & Clark are your one-stop shop for saving your home. Short sales, foreclosure, bankruptcy, refinancing, it's all under one roof. Just give them a call right now at 321-282-1055. And you can schedule a free consultation. We'll be right back.
But they're billion-dollar companies now. I don't understand how it's free, yet you're making $1 billion off of it.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
We are still taking calls at 855-297-9696. We're talking on this show about the fact that, again, Justin Clark is being very, very proactive, just like Robert Palmer is with his company. And together they've started some great great proactive kind of things like the home value hotline. But in this case, it's an annual review of what you're actually paying, because up until now, out of sight, out of mind. I know everything goes up every year, so what am I worried about my house payment going up a little bit? Well, it doesn't have to.
I just think it's funny that every year you get mad because your cell phone bill went up because there's this new excise tax or whatever, and you signed up for this free program that's going to be automatically withdrawn from your bank account every month, but you forgot to cancel it. So every month it's being withdrawn out of your account. But the biggest expense we have every month is our mortgage payment. So the free annual mortgage audit, which we're going to do for you, is we're going to look at your interest rate, look at the terms of your payment, look at the insurance, and look at the taxes, and figure out how to save you money. I think what you do is you find one calendar date a year, whether it's Thanksgiving, which is coming up, Christmas, your birthday, or whatever, and let's really evaluate this in every bill that you're paying. I mean, print off your checking account statements every month and see if there's some stupid automatic freecreditreport.com thing that's coming out you didn't even know about.
Yeah, those free credit reports are quite expensive, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the free credit report, they're billion-dollar companies now. I don't understand how it's free, yet you're making $1 billion off of us. It's unbelievable. Figure out one time a year, maybe the new year, where you really go through and look at all of these things. And the first thing that I'm going to do, in fact, is when I do a free annual mortgage audit for you, is I need to figure out what your house is worth, because that gives me other options as far as a refinance goes. And the only way I really trust to figure out what your house is really worth, it's not these Zillows, it's the Home Value Hotline, which was created by Robert Palmer, and it's at 866-222-8231. You're going to have a local realtor on the ground who sold a house in your neighborhood last week tell you what your house is worth. That's 866-222-8231. To the TV crew, Rob Newton, Robert Palmer, thanks for coming in again, brother. Good to see you as always.
Me on here, man.
See you next week, Newt.
Well, that's it for this week's edition of Behind the Law with Justin Clark. But if you still have any questions, don't wait for next week's show. Just give the offices of Gregory and Clark a call right now at 321-282-1055. They've got the answers. And don't forget to tune in next week for our continued discussion on a free annual audit of what you're paying the bank or the mortgage company. We'll be back right here next week on TV 27.
Thank you for watching Behind the Law with Justin Clark. Be sure to join us again next week as Justin takes you behind the law and answers your legal questions.